Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours,
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of December 25th, 2023, Squeaky Feet.
Welcome back and Merry Christmas. Hopefully, the man with the bag paid you a visit and left you more than coal. We have our top 3 stories of the week coming up. We also have a message about our friend Ashley over at Groove Safe, and we have our interview with Squeaky Feet coming up. We spoke to them a few months back. We've dropped a few shorts with them, and we're going to get into some stuff with them about the studio and various other stuff. How are you doing this week, Amanda?
Hi, Kevin. I am doing well. I'm very excited for 2024. I'm looking forward to the new year.
Can't get here quick enough.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
I'm with you there. I'm with you. Very good. Yeah, I did not do didn't do anything this week. Next week I have a huge week with I'm gonna watch all the Phish shows and do the Wook Plus thing.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, it'll be nice to be into the next year, and we will pick up with interviews. We didn't do we kind of took 10 days off. And I think that you and I both needed that a little bit. We hit 137 interviews this year.
Wow. That's wild.
That is wild. That is wild. But why don't we jump into the
top 3 stories of the week.
Well, Kevin, I really feel like it would be a bad call to not talk about the story that apparently has taken the internet by storm, and it's understandable to some degree. Ben leaving Goose. I have actually not posted anything about this, but I have been online and have, of course, heard a lot, saw the official announcements just a couple days ago. And Kevin, I guess where I wanted to go with this, I mean, that's the story, I guess, officially, right? But for me, there's a story underlying all of this, which is the reactions in all directions that I'm seeing that are very strong, whether it's sadness, grief almost, or other thoughts about what may have happened. A lot of
people
rumor
people being gleeful about it, which is
Yep. Some celebrations, which, yeah, I don't understand that either. So I just thought, maybe we could take a couple minutes. And to me, this is more about fan reactions than even the news itself. So do you have any thoughts? Have you seen anything? I mean, we don't have to get specific, but there's a lot.
Yeah, we went, Wook Plus went live that day. And we were told that we were a little tabloid, but that's okay. I think that everybody wanted to know what was going on, and we reached out to a lot of people we know and found out. My take on it, which I've been saying this about Rick for a while, is that I felt like Goose was always a stepping stone for him on to becoming a Dave Matthews kind of person who sells out stadiums, maybe Trevor's still with him then, but I feel like Goose was never the end game for him. I don't know this. This is just complete speculation, but he seems to be the driving force. And I guess we'll see how it plays out. I hear that they've been auditioning drummers already. I think that this was known by Ben and everybody in the band before Goosemas. If you look at that one picture that he's sitting down and the rest of the band's standing up and everyone behind him, and I don't know. And he wasn't in many of the Europe pictures, so I guess that's we'll see where he lands. I hope he finds himself a nice prog metal band, because the stuff he's been doing with Humphreys is just, I love what he's doing with Humphreys, so that would be fantastic.
Oh, I'm so with you. And I love Elephant Proof. So I got to see Elephant Proof in August, and I have to say that was one of the best shows I've seen this year. the joy from every single member of that band. And I did have actually time to hang out with members of that band for quite a while before the show. And the fun that they have, it almost reminds me, this is going to be a reference that maybe not a lot of people would understand, but there's a From Good Homes and Railroad Earth. When Todd's with From Good Homes, those are his boys, those are his family basically, and he is joyous. And I'm not saying he's not like that with Railroad Earth, and I'm okay to share this, but you have different relationships with people. And to see Ben with the Elephant Proof, bandmates, there was a lot of smiles and just a lot of great energy there. When I worked at a startup that's now a much bigger company, the founder, who, we had different opinions on a lot of things, but the one thing we always said from the beginning was, you have to be happy for people when they move on to something else, whatever the situation is, because they've made a decision and it's never easy, one way or another. And so that has always stuck in my mind in professional settings. When I hear news like this, is no matter what you might be feeling or thinking about it, you have to work on just being as supportive and positive, even if that means just keeping quiet about it, so yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see what the next steps are for everybody.
One more thing, the two statements that came out, it felt like Goose's statement was written by AI. It was just very, the way it read, I don't know. It was very strange, and I felt like Ben was a little more heartfelt, maybe.
Yeah, well, he's writing for himself.
Right. And he didn't have some, but probably they paid somebody. They paid their publicity arm to do that.
Former language arts teacher. It's hard for me not to see anything like that and kind of really, really look at it closely. What's said, what's maybe not being said, but kind of intimated. And again, I think that it's got to be so difficult for all of them in this situation, just because there's so much public fodder all the time, even on just a regular day, right? And so I have to hand it to them for, doing the right thing, being kind of upfront with it, but knowing, I'm sure that for quite a while there's going to just be a lot of talk about it. So hopefully everybody's okay. Hopefully everybody can just, take a deep breath and get through the holidays. I'll say enjoy, whatever that means, to individuals. And I have a feeling the next year is going to be huge for all of them in different ways.
I think so. I'm pretty sure Ben will land on his feet, and I'm excited to see what's next for him. And I'm also excited to see what a new drummer, that could affect the band's sound.
Mm-hmm.
See what happens with Goose.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and hopefully people will, kind of stop with rumors and other things, and it will die down. There's going to be a news story at some point, and then
there's going to be a big story tomorrow coming out of all that jam, because we sat down with Joel and Ryan from Humphreys about Chris.
That's right. And how exciting is that? I'm very, very happy that we were able to have that conversation. It was super positive. Like, I could feel the excitement from both Ryan and Joel. It was awesome. Honestly, it was a great chat. And actually, maybe that's a good lead in to the second story about summer camp. And Kev, normally I don't really talk a lot about festivals because there's so many that could be the news every single week, and lineups and all of that. But summer camp is something that came up, I feel like, in a multitude of conversations we've had over the last couple of months, and how many artists we talked to, plus other things we've read, that there was just a lot of kind of sadness and feeling around the ending of that festival. But there was just an announcement that the team behind summer camp, and maybe you've seen this, they've revealed their lineup for the debut of this new concept, Solshine. It's called a music and arts reverie. It's going to be at Three Sisters Park, so kind of a familiar place over Memorial Day weekend. And it's got a nice mix of, jam bands. There's more on the electronic side too, which is cool. And some of those jam bands kind of fit almost squarely in the middle anyway. So yeah, they've got Mo, Humphreys, Goose, Sound Tribe, String Cheese Incident, and a lot more. I think there's going to be, a really a good energy for this one.
Still a big pool of bands there.
Oh, it's a ton of bands. I mean, it almost reads to me when I think of lineups like that, I always think of High Sierra because High Sierra is always the festival that almost needs 2 pages or they have to use, size 5 font to get everybody in there. It's like that. Huge names. The Special, Doom Flamingo. I could go on. I know that the list is out there, at least originally. What's really cool is to see, a number of bands that we've had interaction with DJ Brownie, the Polyrhythmics. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So I'm very happy that this was announced now. I think for people that were missing summer camp, this gives them something really good to look forward to.
Right. And Joel and Ryan, we did mention this toward the end of our thing, and they were saying, they wanted to downsize, is what we've heard. And I guess this is more manageable, even though, like we just said, there's a mess of bands on there.
Well, I'm curious. I guess I always find, when you have people who have that kind of experience, maybe a rebrand of sorts is what was needed. They're keeping a lot of the commitments that summer camp had to community, Illumination Woods, Soul Patch Garden. They'll have sustainability focused workshops. So they are, I think, continuing some of the core components of summer camp. And I guess my question will be, how is it different? And I haven't really seen too much about that yet, but there will be a lot coming out as the months go on, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we will be watching for it.
Yeah, so good news there. Last story of the week, and it's funny because just like you, Kevin, probably even more for you than me, we're in all these different groups, listservs, I'll say Yahoo groups for the old people like me who might remember those. But there had been this chatter for a little while about the possibility of a new Phish album. And jambands.com posted something just a couple days ago about Vance Powell. He has a new interview out, as first reported by Jambase. He said that he's about to co-produce a new record for Phish. So that's super exciting. I'm down for that. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, a few weeks back, there was a picture. Phish posted a picture of the four of them outside the barn. And that's where my head immediately went. They were there laying down tracks since we had all the new Mission songs from Trey Band. I'm assuming that's going to be what the album is, maybe a new Mike tune on there or something. You got any thoughts on what may end up on there? Anything you want to see on there?
That's probably, I think that's a good question because with Phish, you literally just do not know what's going to happen. And that's honestly my favorite thing about them when it boils down to it. He's worked with Vance has worked with a lot of different artists. Jack White, Chris Stapleton, the Revivalists, North Mississippi All-Stars. So, and then of course he mixed and engineered Ghost of the Forest and co-produced, Sigma Oasis. So it's not like he's new to working with Phish, but I was looking at these other artists that he's, worked with, and I'm thinking it would be kind of cool to see maybe them take a little bit of a harder, darker edge to an album, which is a different kind of production, maybe something a little more stripped down. I guess I'm at a point where I kind of want to see what they can do because when they push themselves, whether you love it or not at first, it's always something memorable and it's always something that gets your attention. So I guess whatever I'm looking for is something that maybe they haven't done yet or a little bit of a different take.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm very excited. I thought Sigma Oasis was the best sounding thing that they had done for a while. I don't think Bob Ezrin ever fit them with Big Boot and whatever the other album he was on. I guess he did Fuego with them also. So even though the song Petrichor on Big Boot might be the one instance where Bob Ezrin and Phish melded, I mean, that is such an incredible studio track. I don't want to hear it live, but they did have a moment, I guess.
They did. And I think that does stand out when that happens. And, for me, a lot of that is from some of their earlier work, but I think there's just a lot of nostalgia there too at this point. I probably have to, mention that. I'm hoping that this comes out, sometime this year, I'm thinking for sure. But there'll be more coming out about this. Absolutely. Also, they had introduced a couple of unrecorded songs this year um, with Trey Trio. So that was an interesting thing too. So we'll see if maybe any of those make it on there. I don't know.
Yeah, pillow jets.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens. All
There
right,
you go.
very good. That was the top three stories of the week. All right, let's jump into Squeaky Feet. They are a really fun band. We got into them about COVID. They started around COVID, so that question was probably really important. This first clip also has songwriting, the industry, and what I'm going to call from now on the disconnect when we ask them about listening back after playing live and their feelings had to change. So let's check that out and we'll see you on the other side. Yeah, I live in Baltimore and it's tough. The first time I saw Phish, there were 40 people there at the 8x10. So,
oh wow, when was
we had
that?
Magic Beans out here not long ago and had Gator from Pigeons has a band called Infinity Tribe with a local woman, Natalie Brooke, and opened for them. Interesting stuff. So, all right. So, what year did you get out to Colorado and have the band? Like, what would you say your band start year was?
I think we started in 2019 as far as like getting together. And at the time, we had a different drummer and a different keyboard player. But we started getting together in 2019. We had our first show January of 2020, and then COVID happened. So it's kind of weird, like talking about the start of our band, because I feel like we didn't necessarily start being the band that we are until honestly maybe a year ago, a little bit more. Basically, when
Right,
yeah,
that's where I was going. Was that you guys started
mhm.
right before quarantine? So okay, so quarantine hits, and you're all of a sudden, all right. Well, we're a band, but we can't play anymore. Did you find it on any level beneficial in that you got to rehearse, maybe focus on
Yeah,
songwriting or anything?
definitely. And we did we did a little bit of like the like here's a live stream thing, here's a socially distanced concert, and we'd be like, we sold it out, but it was only like 30 people because that's how many they let in the building. But we did have a lot of time to focus on songwriting, rehearsing, even though by the time this current lineup started, things were back to normal. Just having the three of us that were in the band originally working together, I think like really solidified not just like tightness of playing, but also like kind of put us on a path of like discovering our sound. And in my opinion, it wound up different than I envisioned it when we put the band together. So it's really cool. And who knows, if we hadn't had that time to just focus on the sound itself, it may not have evolved in the same way.
Right, so the new album, the songs, I guess, have been road tested since then. But were they written during
Probably
quarantine?
most of them, yeah. I had a couple that were carryovers from like, old Boston based projects. But for the most part, they were all written, Greg and I were living in an apartment together. Um, and, we were just firing off songs during that time. Um, yeah, I think close to all of them. Some of them, didn't show up until after quarantine was all done, but we were writing them, while we were in lockdown, and Greg and I were watching Jersey Shore a lot, so we had a lot of inspiration.
There you go. So, what is the creative process when writing? Did somebody just say, "Here's a snippet of an idea, here's a lyric,"
So
and we build from it?
just to kind of spearhead this one as well, I do write a big chunk of our music currently, although I'm happy to be kind of stepping back from that a little bit, and we're getting more Kevin songs, more Greg songs into the fold, which is super exciting. But you know, we tend to do more individual writing, and then things kind of flesh out in the room more. I always go into a song having the bass part written, the keys part written, and then I'll tell Kevin like, "Oh, it should be like boom, boom, cap, boom, 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 cap." That's like the best I can describe a drum part. But things do definitely evolve a lot once we actually start working on them. and sometimes over time too. And then the cool thing was we had a lot of songs that sounded one way when we were a certain lineup and now sound different. So there's a lot of things evolving, and then obviously live, it's just 30-minute tangents at any point, so that kind of can sometimes inform what we want to do as well.
You mentioned the music industry. Let me pick your heads. It seems that it used to be that you put out the album and you toured to support the album. Now it seems like you tour and the album is just an afterthought, almost like an artifact of, hey, this is what the song sounded like in this moment. You want to go into, do you have any thought? Okay, let me go here. Spotify, I know no one likes to say bad things about Spotify, but it's not a sustainable model, I think, for most artists, unless you want to be a road dog. What do you see the future? Do you see anything changing?
Well, I think it's almost slightly different for us, or like jam bands in general. It's like, we're like a progressive rock fusion band. So going like the whole like singles thing, it's just like, on paper, yes, release a single, it's good, blah, 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 blah. But it's not like we're writing songs that are super radio friendly or anything like that. But I do think there's obviously an audience for the music that we write and, put out into the world. So I think Spotify is like, when you're booking shows, I'm sure to an extent, or if you're looking for a booking agent or playing with bands, I'm sure those numbers hold weight in the world in like that regard. And obviously it's like, you want Spotify views and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like the whole touring thing and like album thing are almost separate. It's kind of just like we're touring, we haven't had an album out and we've just been touring because we want to tour it and get our music out, and people still listen to our music. Hopefully when we release the album, we get a bunch more fans and a bunch more listeners. But, now we have, nugs.net or like a Bandcamp. There's like all these other.
Yeah, I saw you guys got on Nugs. Good for you.
The album is like fan training. You could listen to the song and know exactly what the concrete song is. Because if someone has never seen us before, they might come see us play us one song for 35 minutes, and then like the lines are extremely blurred of what the song is. I mean, if you're into this kind of thing, you'll be able to tell just by the tightness and the looseness balance of where the song is and where it's not. But this album will actually give people a concrete roadmap to our music. So then when they come to the show, they're going to be like, oh shit, they're playing Tunnel Vision. Now, oh, this is jamming. And then they're going to be like, oh, they're back in the song.
Right.
So,
or they went into Wanderer or something.
Right, yeah, and they never stopped.
Yeah.
It will help people kind of navigate our music.
That is kind of like what we want from our listeners, because I think we're all kind of that way too. Like when we go see shows, we're like, everybody's like dancing around and smiling, and we're kind of like standing there with our arms crossed, like this is improv. This is not improv. They're going into the jam. Hey, they're going into this song in 2 minutes. Trust me, I can just tell it's just going that way.
Do you, when you walk off stage, is there a disconnect when you go back and listen to the show a few days later to how you feel about it?
It's so funny. And I don't know, maybe
shows that we think are great suck, and shows that we think suck are great.
But we're always on different pages. Yeah. Like I'll come off the stage and be like, that was the worst show of my life, and then everyone will like it and be like, we're posting that tonight, baby. And then like the
it's
opposite
so funny.
happens.
I can like remember specific shows where like oh, Greg hated that or Kevin hated that, and then it turns out to be a really good show, and it happens to me too. We're always it's funny because like when you listen back, all that matters is how you played, but in the moment it's like if you feel like your mix might not be right because of the room or something, or like you were playing a solo and you looked over and you saw someone like not getting down or something, like everything can kind of affect you, like maybe you like step on a cable and it makes a funny noise, like you can just like your mood can just get like affected. Similarly, like we've had shows where we've had like a huge crowd and gotten off stage, like, yeah. And we listen back, it's like, why is everything 12 BPM too fast? And why did I mess up on my solos? But those things that like, you don't care about because you're like, yeah, I'm a rock star. And then you go off stage like, oh, okay, maybe I'm like more of a guy who should like get a desk job.
Yeah. I mean, if you bring life on stage with you one night, it might ruin your show. But then, like, your friends are supposed to tell you you did a good job. There's only like 1 or 2 shows out of our entire existence that we all collectively were like, yeah, that was trash.
That's the one. Well, there's the famous story of Garcia pushing Lesh down the stairs after a show because he thought it sucked so bad, and they ended up using it for Live Dead. It's the Dark Star on Live Dead.
It's a pretty good Dark Star.
Yeah,
we need to start just doing that as a post-show ritual. Just picking somebody, we'll like have like a little wheel we can spin.
You got to build some strength somehow,
bud.
Yeah,
it's your turn tonight.
All right, Kevin. Well, we've got more to hear from Squeaky Feet. Another one of those Berkeley kind of incubator type bands, right? There's so much of that. That's great. Moved out to Denver out here quite a while ago, like you said, right around COVID times. So we'll get back into that in just a moment, but wanted to just remind everybody that check us out on social media at All That Jam Pod. And that's on all the major social media platforms, allthatjampod.com. And I will mention, because Kevin, I shared this with you, I've started building a searchable database, which will be on the website for all of our episodes, because there's so many now. I want to be able to find what I'm looking for. And so it's already up there. I'm just keeping it updated, adding to it as much as I can to backfill. And then, of course, YouTube with some full interviews. So definitely check those out. And please like and subscribe. We do have a 5-star rating on Spotify right now. I don't know if you know that, Kevin.
Nice.
We do.
I saw we got an email about check your Spotify rap, and I started playing it and wanted me to sign in, and I was like, eh.
Well, I can do that. I'll do that, and we'll see what it says. But it's cool to see that, and I'm looking forward to more of that, in the new year. Also, I know that even though we may be taking a little bit of a break, for the most part from interviews, there's still a lot coming out. So do you want to talk about kind of what people might be hearing from us over the next week or so?
Yeah, we're going to be adding to your list this week. As we mentioned earlier, we got Joel and Ryan from Humphreys coming on, and some really great news about Chris. It was a very heartwarming conversation. On Wednesday, we got Disco. We caught up with them, and we actually, last time we had talked to Jake, we talked to 2 of the other guys this time, and it went really long, so it turned into more than just a catch-up. So we're going to hear a couple clips from that. On Thursday, the Rumble. They're a band out of New Orleans that does the Mardi Gras Indian thing, so we'll check that out. On Friday, Fireside Collective, which is they're adding a drummer. That was a fun conversation. They're having a big New Year's show, so they talk a little bit about that. Saturday, Jimmy Montague, our guy from the yacht rock scene. He has a couple new singles and a new album coming out, so we got to catch up with him. And then on Sunday, Matt Glickman. So make sure that you check that out. And let's jump back into Squeaky Feet. We got influences, we got covers they do, and we got their personal philosophy, which was really interesting because they're a younger band. When you ask older people that and younger people, you can see that, there's a difference. Sometimes you go from if you had asked me at 20, my life philosophy, I would have said live and let live. Now that I'm going to be 53, it's a little more complicated. But let's check.
More complicated. I agree with you on that one, Kevin.
All right, let's check that out, and we'll see you on the other side. I hear lots of stuff, but I'm going to ask you, what are your guys' influences? What would you say is the seed that your music is growing out of?
Do you want to go one at a time with this one? Kev, you go first.
Yeah, sure.
So the coolest thing about this band is that everyone's really coming from different backgrounds, and then we all have some mutual loves. See, my main influences are like Medeski, Martin and Wood. I love Club Delph. I like a lot of electronic music, like this guy Machine Drum. He's really cool. And then I love Dopapod, classic, Phish, Cheese, kind of rock and roll stuff. So I'm all over the board. I like jazz, Robert Glasper, Mark Juliana, the Bad Plus, just kind of weird out avant-garde type of loosey-goosey jazz stuff. And then super tight prog rock, Dopapod, ELP. I also really like reggae music
I
a
was
lot.
waiting for you.
I love this band, John Brown's Body. I've been listening to them probably since I was like 13, just like almost daily. I just listen to John Brown's Body.
For me, I mean, I love like 70s and 80s fusion and like prog rock. I don't think this comes out in my playing so much, but like I love Dream Theater, so like I've been in that headspace for a while as far as like writing. And again, I don't think I sound anything or write anything like John Petrucci, but like I just love that music right now. And then like Dopapod, Humphreys McGee, which is probably pretty
hear that with I always said Humphreys was like the Allman Brothers meet Iron Maiden with
exactly,
the dual guitar, and
yeah.
I can hear some of that with you. You get some of the metal heavy in there.
I think with like we're a dual guitar heavy-ish band, so I think the Humphreys will always kind of, whether we want to sound like them or not, that's just kind of the vibe. But yeah, I come from just like a lot of like random fusion and progressive rock and
yeah, and
like
so
that.
for me, I mainly listen to like really, really down tempo, like indie rock and stuff at home, and that doesn't necessarily inform what we do musically. But I have a big background of listening to, a lot of jam music, a lot of prog rock, a lot of fusion, straight ahead jazz, 90s rock. We're kind of all over the board in that regard. I think that as we kind of settle into our sound, which we're still kind of discovering over time, I think what I've realized about us is that like, one of the things that like is sort of like a nexus of everyone together is that we all kind of love music from the 70s. And I think that's like a big informer of where we're at. I would probably say like, as far as our sound, structurally we're a prog band, like that. I think that's evident in sort of how we write songs. We tend to stray away from verse chorus type of structures. Note choice wise, probably more like a fusion band, which our bass player Jimmy is like a huge driver of. His style kind of like pushes us in that direction. And then sound wise, almost like a little bit more in the psychedelic realm. Kevin runs his drum kit through an effects, like a pedal board, which has really opened up our sound a lot. Everything's a lot more wet and splashy and kind of out there sounding because of that. Greg and I are both, effects nerds with like a lot of, someone always has a delay pedal on in our band. Someone always has some sort of like tremolo or phaser. So I would say that we're kind of like that range of prog, fusion, psychedelic. And I think the reason that those three things shine through the most is because that's kind of the thing that if you got all of us in a room and made like a cross section of our interests and tastes, that would be like the biggest confluence. And then it's just cool to see the other genres that get peppered in from other people's tastes,
Right. Now, do you guys do covers?
So we do.
This is the debate for the past like 3 months where like someone's like no covers, and then I'm like
that's kind of me. I'm like the anti-cover guy.
I think we're all kind of like weirdos who have these like fluctuating opinions, and one day we might be like no covers, and the next day it's like, oh, let's play this classic rock song. Yeah.
What else should we learn?
And I think somewhat I don't want to be a band that's like every night playing 2 covers, because I really just love doing our thing. And I also love the idea that we don't necessarily have to do covers if we don't want to. However, that's just an idea. We have to do covers on this scene, and we will.
Yeah.
What's funny is I don't think we have not played a cover yet this year, and I don't think that was some like
right
type of like decision. We're just excited about our music right now. And I think the plan is we're going to start peppering them back in on future dates here. And back before this year, we were doing plenty of covers, and, they're all over the place. I like doing rock covers. Jimmy likes doing jazz fusion covers. Greg wants us to play a Don Henley song.
Yeah.
Which one? Dirty Laundry?
No.
That's been talked about.
Yeah, that one has.
But I think it was what, Boys of Summer.
Boys of Summer, the Cadillac.
Yeah.
I think the thing with covers, is like we'll play them for a while and get sick of them, and then going back to the whole scheduling thing, it's just like, well, do we have time or like the patience to want to like learn a whole new cover? Right now, we barely have enough time to rehearse.
Yeah,
as is to throw in, some.
I tell you what, though, as a consumer of bands, when I go to a festival and it's a band I never heard before, if they do a cover, it's what I'm going to remember and why I'm going to go seek them back out.
Exactly.
All right. Well, the man
Thanks
has
for
spoken.
saying that. Yes.
I mean, so we've done like YYZ, we've done Sheep.
That's cool.
One More Red Nightmare, Pokemon theme song. We're all over the place.
Well,
we even play Weezer.
The Pokemon theme song would work. I wouldn't know that because I'm too old for Pokemon. But if you did Linus and Lucy from Snoopy,
right?
I'd be like, oh man, they're the band that did the Snoopy song.
Yeah, we recognize that it's an aspect of connecting with the audience, and we don't want to deprive them of that. Obviously, it's beneficial for us for people.
No, we don't want to be successful, so we've decided to
I just sometimes I feel like people are so indifferent to demanding prog music anyways that it's like they might not even care if we played anything they recognize because they're going to be hit with so much like what the fuck is happening like just keep playing our own music. They'll come around. They'll come around. That's what everyone says.
Yeah. And you will get a group of people. I mean, Captain Beefheart has a loyal group of fans. 99.9% of the people in the world have never heard of him, but he has a loyal group of fans.
And he never had to play one cover.
And he did some covers. I know he had to have done covers. Yeah. I got do his low yo-yo stuff. No one would know what the fuck it was.
So that's the other thing is that a lot of times we're like, oh, we should do some covers, and then all of a sudden we're talking about like weather report songs and not even like the hits, and it's just like. At that point, are we playing a cover or are we just playing another weird song that nobody knows? You know what I mean? So we're and that's the problem is that we're all kind of into like really like weird stuff. So and my old band had that same issue where we'd learn and play cover and people would be like, I didn't know that was a cover. You know what I mean?
Right. Brian Haas, I was talking to Brian Haas about Reed Mathis's Electric Beethoven, and he was saying this guy came up to him after a show once. He's like, I've seen you guys 10 times. I love it, yada, yada, yada. And Brian mentioned something about Beethoven, and the guy's like, what? That's Beethoven's music?
It's in the name.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, let me close up here. We're getting on 45 minutes. Words to live by.
Uh-oh. This is like when they go around the class and they ask you to say like an interesting fact about yourself. It's like, oh no.
or anything, any little personal philosophy, anything you think about music that drives you. I mean, you know, whatever.
I think for me, it's like, it's this weird thing where it's just like, I've never been so sure about doing something I'm so like unsure about, it's just like, I'm sure we all kind of go back and forth where it's just like, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're doing the right thing. We went to music school. We're pursuing this. And then you have this like, doubt, and then you're unsure about it. But then if you think about doing something else, you're like, no, there's absolutely no way I would succeed. Or I don't know. It's just this weird, I guess it's like people are always just like, pursue your dreams and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I do think that that's, those are words to live by, so to say. I feel pretty confident in just doing what we're all doing right now, whether it's in this band or just being a musician in general.
Yeah. Kind of on that same page. I went to a wedding recently and I talked to a lot of people that are a lot more, maybe financially successful than I am. And, it's always funny trying to like fit into a conversation with a bunch of doctors and lawyers and stuff. And they're like, what do you do? You're in a little band, huh? But like the more I would talk to these people, a lot of them are like, oh, I want to change my job so bad. I don't know what I want in life. And it's really funny to me. And I just know a lot of people like that like, on the surface, I envy them because they're like way more financially successful. And like when I picture like the life, or the American dream or whatever, like it's like they're doing a much better job of it than we are, just kind of like
the capitalistic
right. But they all seem
dream.
very, not all of them, but like a lot of them, come off as kind of unhappy to me. And then sometimes like jealous, like, oh, I wish I was doing what you do. And I was talking to someone recently, and like the thing we settled on is like, you can't, if you go out and you chase financial success, you're never going to find your passion after that. You have to go out searching for your passion and hope that you hit the financial success. Now, obviously, there's a chance you might not. But if you go out, trying to secure the bag and make the money first, I don't think you're ever going to stumble upon your passion. It basically seems impossible to me. So that's kind of what, at least for me, what drives what we do. And like I said earlier, the thing is, for me, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. If I'm not going out and playing music, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be. So, and then as far as us on stage, my mentality lately, and I've been saying this to the band, is like the best way for the crowd to have fun is for us to have fun. If that means we go out and play covers, so be it. If we don't want to do that, we shouldn't do that. The crowd will immediately see us phoning it in. If we decide, let's play one song tonight, like that's the best move, because that's what we want to do. And if we're up there having fun, that's going to translate to the crowd. Those were two completely disconnected words to live by, but there
perfect.
they are.
I love it.
Colin lives by paragraphs.
Those weren't words. Those were, I wrote that all out.
All right, Kevin, another great interview. Really excited for everything we have coming up, and very, very grateful to be ending this year with so much great content, but also I think some really great relationships that we've been building with the music community. And that is a pretty awesome thing. So that is something I'm very, very happy about. Wanted to mention that we're doing a bit of an end of year fundraiser for Groove Safe. Groove Safe is a very special nonprofit to me, to a lot of people. They are basically a peer advocacy and education network that is meant to provide support, but also teach people what it means to experience harassment, unwanted touching at shows, how to support people in your scene and recognize what's happening. They do a lot of work with fans like us, but also connect and collaborate with artists, and are looking to really expand that and work with a bunch of venues this year, which I think that's really where it's at, is the venue situation. And so we are online. I did this through Facebook, just it was a little bit easier that way. Got a couple $100 in there. I can't do anything normally, so I set a really big goal of a couple $1,000, and we'll go until the end of the year. So if you've got any funds, I know it's Christmas time, but some people really look for end of year donations for tax purposes. So that might be something that's interesting. And for people who are able to donate $100 or more, I have a signed poster from our October event at New Conscious that was signed by everyone who participated. And so I've been keeping those. I'd love to send them off to people. And I've got some other thank you gifts too that I'm throwing in.
Perfect. Yes. You can find Ashley over New Year's. If you're seeing Phish at MSG, she told us that she'll have a table set up. So make sure that you look for her, go say hi. She's just a beautiful soul, and always happy to people. And if you have any issues, you can always seek her out. Questions. I never knew how to deal with. You see something inappropriate going on, your initial instinct is usually to look away. I'm not going to be involved. And she's taught me, effective things of walking up and being like, hey, say hi, everything going good over here, kind of thing, and just inserting yourself in a non-threatening way into the situation to maybe give the person who's being victimized a chance to walk away or separate themselves.
Absolutely. And it is a very difficult thing. I think you're right. I think that any kind of inaction, or what might look like inaction, so often is a result of someone, and I can identify with this, not knowing what to do or feeling really uncomfortable, like they shouldn't get involved. And so there's a lot of, like I mentioned, not only education, but mindset shifting that Groove Safe works to do with all of us. And that's a pretty awesome thing. So hopefully we'll be able to give them a really nice end of the year. I know that every single dollar will help in many ways. And I know Group Safe also has some really great and exciting things already queued up for next year. So we want to make sure they can do everything that they want to do.
There you go. And with that, we want to say Merry Christmas and stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll see you on New Year's Eve, Amanda.
Go. See you soon.